not only to refer to persons of advanced age GE 18. 11. De 28. 50. 1 So 2. 22. 1 T 5. 1, 2 or to the older of 2 persons Lu 15. 25 but also to apply in a special way to those holding a position of authority and responsibility in a community or nation. The latter sense is the predominant one in both the Hebrew and the Christian Greek scriptures. The elderly man customarily was held in esteem from otex to acute miritra longo, older man 549 term, and whether the application is merely to aged males or to those in the official capacity of headmen. Older men elders of Israel. Already prior to the Exodus, the Israelites had their older men, who presented matters to the people, acted as their spokesmen, and reached decisions. When returning to Egypt, Moses was instructed to present his commission to these older men, and these, or at least the principal ones among them, accompanied him when he went in before Pharaoh. Acts 3. 16, 18. When Moses, as God's representative, presented the law covenant to the nation, it was the official older men who represented the people in entering that covenant relationship with Jehovah. Acts 19. 3-8 Some time later, when the Israelites complained about the conditions in the wilderness, Moses, feeling that the administrative burden of the nation was now too great for him, confessed the problem to Jehovah. Then God commanded Moses, "Gather for me 70 men of the older men of Israel, whom you do know that they are older men of the people and officers of theirs. And I shall have to take away some of the spirit that is upon you and place it upon them, and they will have to help you in carrying the load." New 11. 16, 17 These older men were appointed theocratically to this service. New 11. 24, 25 Jehovah now used them to share the responsibility of leadership and administration with Moses. In time, the nomadic Israelites conquered the Promised Land and went back to fixed dwellings in towns and cities, as has been their way of life in Egypt. The older men now became responsible for the people on a community level. They acted as a body of overseers for their respective communities, providing judges and officers for the administration of justice and the maintenance of peace, good order, and spiritual health. The 16. 18-20. 25. 7-9. Jos 20. 4. Ru 4. 1-12. References to all Israel, its older men and its heads and its judges and its officers Jos 23. 2. 24. 1. The older men of Israel and all the heads of the tribes, the chieftains of the paternal houses 2ch 5. 2. Do not mean that the heads, judges, officers, and chieftains were distinct from the older men but, rather, indicate that those named in such a specific way hold singular offices within the body of older men. Compare to Chi 19. 2. Mr. 15. 1. Those serving as older men on a national level are designated by the expressions older men of Israel 1 So 4. 3. 8. 4. Older men of the land 1 Chi 20. 7. Older men of the assembly JG 21. 16. Or, after the division of the kingdom, older men of Judah and Jerusalem, for the southern kingdom. 2 Chi 23. 1. Like many of Israel's kings and priests, the older men on the whole proved unfaithful in their responsibility to God and the people. 1 Chi 21. 8-14. Es 7. 26. 14. 1-3 Because of losing God's support, boys would become their princes, and the lightly esteemed one would storm against the one to be honored. Is 3. 1-5 Thus, the Hebrew scriptures emphasize that age alone is not sufficient, that grey-headedness is a crown of beauty only when found in the way of righteousness. PR 16. 31 It is not those merely abundant in days that prove wise, nor those just old that understand judgment, but those who, along with their experience, are guided by God's Spirit and who have gained understanding of His Word. Job 32. 8, 9. PS 119. 100. PR 3. 5-7. EC 4. 13. Direction by the body of older men continued throughout the history of the nation, even during the Babylonian exile and after the restoration to Judah. J 29. 1. As 6. 7. 10. 7, 8, 14. When Jesus was on earth, older men gr. Pre-middle.sb to middle.roy were active in public affairs, both on a community level Lu 7. 3-5 and on a national level. The Assembly of Older Men gr. Pre-middle.sb middle.re middle. On at Jerusalem constituted a major source of opposition to Jesus and his disciples. Lu 22. 66. Act 22. 5. Elders o textoi acute miritra longo. Older man 550 authoritative. Act 15. 1-31. 16. 1-5. Thus, even as some older men served Israel on a national basis, so it is evident that these older men with the apostles formed a governing body for the entire Christian congregation in all lands. At a later date, Paul went to Jerusalem and met with James and all the older men, relating to them the results of his work and receiving their counsel on certain matters. Act 21. 15-26. In a few cases the term older men is used in contrast with younger men or in parallel with older women with no indication of congregational responsibility being involved. In such cases, the term refers simply to men of mature age. Act 2. 17, 18. 1-5. 1, 2. It is also used to refer to men of old times. Heb 11. 2. However, in most cases in the Christian Greek scriptures, the older men were those responsible for the direction of the congregation. In a few texts the older men are called overseers gr. e-pisco-poi. Bishops, kj. Paul used this term in speaking to the older men from the one congregation of Ephesus, and he applied it to such ones in his letter to Titus. Act 20. 17, 28. Tit 1. 5, 7. Both terms, therefore, refer to the same role, pre-middle.sb to middle.ros indicating the mature qualities of the one so appointed, and de-pisco-pos the duties inherent with the appointment. Regarding the Greek word pre-middle.sb to middle.ros, Manuel Guerra Gomez noted. The precise translation of the term pre-middle.sb to middle.ros in almost the majority of the Hellenistic texts that have survived until now is that of older man, synonym of mature man. Maturity of judgment and guiding criterion is its distinctive note. Whether or not it has a technical sense, the term pre-middle.sb to middle.ros both in the Hellenistic and the Israelite worlds designates, not the ailing elderly, but rather the mature man, suitable by his experience and prudence for the ruling of his family or of his people. Episcopoi Presbyteros, Burgos, Spain, 1962, pages 117, 257. That age, in the physical sense of years lived, was a factor for qualifying to serve as an older man in ancient Israel is evident. 1 Chi 12. 6-13. So, too, the older men, or overseers, in the Christian congregation were not young men, as is evidenced by the apostles' reference to their having wives and children. Tit 1. 5, 6. 1-3. 2, 4, 5. Nevertheless, physical age was not the sole or primary factor, as is seen by the other qualifications set forth 1-3. 2-7. Tit 1. 6-9, nor is any specific age level stipulated. Timothy, who had to do with appointing older men, was obviously also recognized as one himself, though relatively young. 1-4. 12. The requirements for the responsibility as an older man in the Christian congregation included a high standard of conduct and spirituality. The ability to teach, to exhort, and to reprove played a major part in one's being accredited as an older man. 1-3. 2. Tit 1. 9. Paul solemnly charged Timothy to preach the word, be it urgently in favorable season, in troublesome season, reprove, reprimand, exhort, with all long-suffering and art of teaching. 2-4. 2. As shepherds, the older men are responsible for the spiritual feeding of the flock, as well as for caring for those spiritually ill and for protecting the flock against wolfish elements. Act 20. 28-35. Just 5. 14, 15. 1 PE 5. 2-4 Additionally, Paul, who had himself been zealous in teaching publicly and from house to house, reminded Timothy of his responsibility to do the work of an evangelizer, fully accomplish your ministry. Act 20. 20. 2-4. 5. Each Christian congregation had its body of older men, or overseers, these regularly being mentioned in the plural, as at Jerusalem Act 11. 30. 15. 4, 6. 21. 18, at Ephesus Act 20. 17, 28, at Philippi php 1. 1. The body of older men gr. Pre-middle dots b middle dot re middle dot on is mentioned with regard to the laying of hands on Timothy. 1-4. 14 The older men, as the overseers o textoi acute muritra longo. Olive 551 Following remark is found in the Acts of the Apostles, by F. Bruce 1970, p. 286. Although the etymological sense of k middle dot ro middle dot to middle dot neo is to elect by show of hands, it came to be used in the sense designate, appoint. Cf. The same word with prefix pro, before in x. 41. Liddell and Scott's Greek English Lexicon, after first giving common definitions to k middle dot ro middle dot to middle dot neo, says. Later, generally, appoint. Appoint to an office in the church. Revised by H. Jones, Oxford, 1968, p. 1986 Likewise, Parkhurst's Greek and English Lexicon to the New Testament London, 1845, p. 673 says. With an accusative following, to appoint or constitute to an office, though without suffrages or votes. The role to which these Christian men were appointed was that of alderman, or elder, without any supporting